Good afternoon once again. This is Dion, your 49er reporter, back here with some more information and some more good old-fashioned 49er news. So, get this regular stuff out the way. It's very simple. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Definitely so you can get all the most up-to-date 49er information. And, I'm going to give it to you straight, no chaser. That's just how I do it. This is my views, my opinions, and if you don't like it, it is what it is. Let's get right into it. So, we're going to go ahead and jump from position group to position group. We've already touched on the QBs and the running backs. So, why not go ahead and talk about tight ends? This is going to be probably the quickest and simplest video that I've ever done. As far as our tight ends are concerned, we had 3 tight ends catch footballs last year. 3 of them. We had Ross Dwelley. Ross Dwelley had 2 targets, 2 receptions. He had 14 yards, 7 yards, per catch. And the end. Next up, we had Garrett Selleck, who we thought was going to have more of a fantastic year. They gave him the little moniker Selleck time and everything and all that good stuff because of the year before. And everything seemed to probably be going right. And then Garrett Selleck had 5 receptions on 8 targets for 90 yards. So he averaged 18 yards per catch. That ain't bad. That's almost 2 first downs every time he catches the ball. And he had 2 touchdowns. Long ball was 41, hey, I'm not knocking the guy. And then what happens? Mr. Selleck winds up getting injured. And Garrett Selleck has been in concussion protocol for a very long time. He's got back problems and a couple other things going on. My suggestion to him, and this is not because I'm being mean or I'm being rude, retire. Here's the reason I say retire. There have been a lot of guys in this league that have had to be pushed out of the league because of injury. And I'm just going to state that. I've seen it, Namely, one of our great quarterbacks, Steve Young. We pushed out Joe Montana to give him the spot because we wanted him to start. Steve Young was one of the greatest 49er quarterbacks along with Joe Montana. Although Joe won 4 and Steve won 1 Super Bowl, Steve did so many great things. He's probably the epitome of a dual-threat quarterback. Cats who are dual-threat quarterbacks actually need to model themselves after cats like Steve Young. Because he could throw and he could pull that motherfucker down and take off. And you'd be surprised. You'd be looking, who the fuck is this little dude just running his head? God damn it, I can't catch this bastard. The only issue with Steve Young is he didn't play in this era. He played in an era where real football was being played and where they could hit you in the fucking mouth and knock the shit out of you as many times as they wanted. That's what it was. That was a time where you could hit the quarterback 2 seconds after he threw the ball, and it wasn't flag on unnecessary roughness for pushing the quarterback 15 yards. Seriously, when Max Kellerman says you can't breathe on the fucking quarterback, you can't breathe on the goddamn quarterback. But anyway, reason I brought up Steve Young is Steve Young was forced to retire. This is a little known fact, and you can do your research if you want to. Steve Young was told, if you get another concussion, you will die on that field. When you get news like that from your doctor, saying basically if your brain is concussed one more time, it's a wrap. You are done in life. This ain't football, I'm talking about life. So your kids, your wife, your family, anybody who knows you and loves you and cares about you is gone. And the reason I say for Garrett Selleck to retire is because he keeps having injuries that hinder him from being on the field. In the NFL, the best ability is availability. He does not have that. I respect the guy for what he's done, in the league. And, his big brother, played in the league and everything like that. I believe his big brother's still playing. I don't know where. But Garrett needs to retire. I think it's time for him to let go. When you are in concussion protocol for this long and you start having back problems like that, it's time to let go. You see so many players retiring early because it just Football is a taxing sport. It just beats your body up constantly. I didn't play football, I ran track, but I know some people who play football, man. They tell you that shit hurt. It's a lot. You know what I'm saying? But to me, Selleck, unfortunately, I think you should hang the cleats up, man, call it a career, and just stay blessed and do other things in life that will continue to help you be a good person, man. But moving on rapidly to the next guy and to a more happy and lovely situation. Ooh. Mr. Kittle, Mr. Motherfucking Kittle. Ooh. I just get so excited when I talk about George Kittle because I knew coming out, I knew it. I told everybody. I always tell people whenever we have a draft, I always look at one player and go, that motherfucker's a star. George Kittle was a star when we drafted him. He got banged up in his first season, so it was kind of hard for him to latch on and really become who he was. Now, George Kittle, mind you, caught passes from 3 different quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo, C.J. Beathard, and Nick Mullins. 3 different quarterbacks. You know what George Kittle went out and fucking did? George Kittle decides to get 1,377 yards and set the fucking record for most receiving yards by a tight end in the season. And in that same season, he almost set the single season game record. He had the motherfucker, man. And Shanahan didn't know it. Somebody let him know way too goddamn late. I think he only needed like 5 or 6 yards. We would have got him that shit. He had that record too. Now, the only drawback is that Kittle only had 5 touchdowns. Now, if he was just a hint faster, he probably would have had like 10. Because I'm telling you, Kittle would be taking the fuck off, man, and somebody would just catch him. He's not slow by any stretch of the imagination. Do not think that I am saying that. George Kittle is nowhere near slow. That man take the fuck off, and you'd be pissed off because you can't catch him. But if George Kittle is in the open field and he's got to run 60 yards, chances are somebody might come trying to trip him up by his feet. They're not going to catch him all the way, but they'll dive at his feet to be able to knock him off balance and make him fall. But, I mean, Kittle didn't fumble the ball not once. His big catch was 85 fucking yards. And I have to say the best touchdown for me was when he put his head behind his back, baby. He went ahead, he stretched that ball out, he went into the touchdown. And you know what happened? Because he balled, he got the motherfucking call. Deion gave him a call, man, and I just Kittle, like, y'all see the excitement in my face when I talk about George Kittle. He's the greatest tight end in the league right now. You know what I'm saying? Gronk went ahead and retired. Why? His body was getting beat up. He was very emotional. You could see when he was talking about, he was saying that football is kind of sucking the life from him. It wasn't fun anymore. And when it's not fun anymore, you don't want to play because you don't have the same interest, the love and the drive and the will to get up and take that beating every day. It's not there. But one thing about George Kittle, you know what he did in this offseason? George Kittle said, I'm going to become a better blocker. And he was already good at it. He said, I'm going to continue to become a better receiver. Obviously, he's great at that. George Kittle wants to fine-tune his game so much, and he's so humble, that there's nothing that's going to stop this guy. We have the best tight end in football, guys. There isn't anyone better. Don't get on my page with Travis fucking Kelce and Zach Ertz and David Njoku and all these others. I don't give a shit about none of them. Ain't nobody got a better tight end than we do. Period, point blank. You don't. If you have a better tight end than me, I want you to see him on the field producing. George Kittle had, I think, yards after the catch. This is Yak. Since Yak was recorded, this is the most of any receiver since Yak started getting recorded in 2006. 784 fucking yards after the goddamn catch. So that means when he caught the ball, out of that 1,377 yards, he had 784 yards after that. You understand what I'm saying? That's half his yards. He made plays. So, I don't want to hear nothing about another tight end in the fucking league. I don't want to hear nothing about shit. You know what I'm saying? George Kittle is the best tight end in the league. We already have him, but this year we actually have 4 tight ends. We drafted one. So we have George Kittle, we have Levon Toilio, we have Ross Dwelley, and we have Caden Smith. The reason that we have 4 tight ends, guys, and I alluded to this in my last video about the 53-man roster. I'm going to tell you this is very simple. The reason we have those guys is because they're worried about the blocking in the offensive line when it comes on passing downs. So they kept Tolio and Caden Smith for that reason. Your main pass catchers most likely will wind up being George Kittle and Ross Dwelley. Dwelley will be there because Dwelley can catch. It's just he has to have the opportunity and he has to be able to do things. I know he dropped the ball in that last preseason game, but I mean he was still trying to catch the shit when he dropped it. So your main pass catcher is going to be George Kittle because we're going to get him the ball. And people have keyed in on him, so he will wind up freeing up receivers to do what they want to do. Because you're going to have a linebacker on him, and that's just going to be stupid because he's going to make them look dumb. You can put a safety on him, but, I mean, look how big this motherfucker is. And another thing about George Kittle, if you didn't know, George Kittle's a goddamn goofball, man. He's a straight-up funny motherfucker. He loves wrestling. Straight up loves wrestling. I think his favorite wrestler is Stone Cold Steve Austin. But then the other thing about him, it came out and he was open about it. His wife was open about it. He went and got a fucking Joker tattoo on his forearm the day before his wedding. His wife was furious. And then she looked and she was like, man, it's just George. I still love him. That's the type of shit he does. Like, he just did funny, man. I love it. But we have those other 3 guys strictly for blocking purposes. George Kittle will be our main pass catcher. If I have to say somebody would be second, to be Ross Dwelley. But the period point blank, I think it's a situation where our tight ends are there because we need help on that line. And they're going to have to help guide us through the season so that we don't get Jimmy G killed and he doesn't take a bunch of sacks. It's just a situation where we'll have those guys to do what they need to do, and most of those guys will be blocking guys, and George Kittle will be the one out there receiving. And you're not going to stop him as much as you try to. You have tape, you have film, you'll see what he does, you'll see what they do with him, but there are other things that you're just not going to be able to recognize. He'll get his yards. If you're a fantasy owner and you need a tight end, George Kittle's your guy. You can go ahead and get Travis Kelce because you already know that they're going to throw the ball a lot more than they're going to run it while you're in Kansas City. Who just, by the way, picked up Shady McCoy to go in that backfield, so yeah, that's not bad for them. It was very surprising that he wound up getting cut, but I mean, declining production, older back, it's not uncommon. They don't value backs the way they used to. But period point blank, that's it for the tight ends. Very simple. We have George Kittle, we have Levi Toilio, we have Caden Smith, and we have Ross Dwelley. Caden Smith and Toilio are most likely going to be our blocking guys. They will help out on the offensive line. They're probably going to continue to work with them and practice on that to get their blocking up and make sure that they're doing everything that they can to keep these guys off of Garoppolo. And at the same time, when it comes to pass catching, it's going to be, I'd say 98% George Kittle and 2% Ross Dwelley. But that's pretty much it for the tight ends, man. We good going into the season. We got a healthy George Kittle, and I've seen some of his off-season workouts. This dude has literally gotten faster. So those touchdowns that he missed when he didn't have just that little bit of to get in there, he's got a whole lot of to get in there. Y'all have fun. Y'all stay blessed, man. I'll be back. We're going to talk about these wide receivers next.